Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Stevie Nicol. Of course, he's a very happy man because it was a very significant weekend for Liverpool, where they've all but won the Premier League trophy. Of course, their victory away against Manchester City, coupled with Arsenal losing at home against West Ham, means that the table looks like this: 11 points, the difference between the top two. Arsenal, of course, do have a game in hand, but even the most optimistic gunner will be struggling to give you a reason as to why they would catch Liverpool at the top of the table, considering the dominance we've seen from the Reds pretty much from day one in the league. For more on this, here's Nedum and Mario Melchiot. Mario, I want to start with you. We had a look from Stevie yesterday, waxing lyrical about Liverpool, and in particular Arne Slot. How surprised are you that he's come in and made the impact that he has on this team, given we've seen struggles before from managers from Holland and they couldn't get a grip to the Premier League?
I think the biggest thing for Slot was that he didn't change as much. You know, like I think the guys that came in prior to this situation, also because, you know, when I was in Manchester, I sat down with him and we had a chat regarding that. You know, and I said, do you feel like a big change was that you didn't implement it so much of the Dutch side? And he said, no, because the team had already a lot of ingredients. I just had to make sure that I implement my way of playing. You understand? Of course, the pressing side, Klopp was already part of it. He said the key thing that I really had to bring in was the tempo of the game. I need to dictate it better. He said that's the only thing. He said away from that, the team was great. Look at the talents that the team already possessed. And clearly, you understand the game that we're going to talk about, you could see that the difference between them now, they are a team, even if they don't have the ball, they are still dangerous. Of course, you have a Salah in your team and makes a hell of a difference, but they don't need to have the ball all the time. They will hurt you anyway.
So, Steve, how much credit should Slot get by not letting his ego get in the way? Or what has he done is just been quite easily and he's just taken the reins and make little tweaks?
No, he deserves all the credit that everybody's going to give him, 100%. You know, the fact that he's talking about the tempo of the game and not about from the first to the last minute, pressing, 100 miles an hour, rock and roll football. It would have been the easiest thing to go into a place like Liverpool and look at not only who the previous manager was, but all the other managers, and look how they stamped their authority. And they were a huge part of it. For him just to not let his ego get carried away and use the tools that he already had and just tinker with them, because that's all he's done. Because when they go forward, Liverpool, they go at 100 miles an hour. It's still rock and roll when they want to go forward. But what he's added is the control, that it's not about periods when you're just running 100 miles an hour. It's actually controlled. You can slow the game down by either keeping the ball or you can slow the game down by letting the opposition have it. So he deserves all the credit that he's getting, 100%.
And 100%, Liverpool have been the best team in the Premier League this season. There's no question about that, Nedum. But how much is it about Liverpool being good, and how much is it about all the other clubs shooting themselves in the foot?
I think two things in this particular occasion can be true at the same time. And I think Liverpool themselves, they have been good. I think the points per game at the minute that they're on, you know, it's not going to be one of the most iconic seasons, but it's not needed to be.
The dross, though, that is in the Premier League at the moment, starting with a team that Liverpool beat comfortably just yesterday. Manchester City, this is what Pep Guardiola had to say. It was a good game. First half, it was more open, and in the second half, they defended very deep. They'll always have the threat, but it's not easy to control it. I'm very pleased with the way we play. I saw a bright future. Other than Kevin and Nathan, they are the future of this club for the next years. Well, if that's the future, Nate, I won't be getting too excited if I'm a City fan.
Oh, stop it, Dan. Stop complaining. He's trying to find positives in what's been a rubbish sort of like last 3-4 months.
But why?
And I think in some ways
it's such an empty gesture, isn't it? I thought we played very well. At what stage did you think City were going to get anything from this tie?
Oh, Dan, you're so negative. Come on, get a grip of yourself
right.
now.
Sorry, Man City TV. Let's put a positive spin on everything. Oh, look at Joku. Joku is the future of Manchester City, everyone. Don't worry.
Well, to be fair, what do you expect them to say?
Especially
But why does he have to say that the future's bright? How has he seen a bright future, Steve?
Because he has to.
He doesn't have to say that.
Yes, he does.
Why? His team have been outplayed by Real Madrid and by Liverpool. Both of you and Craig's admission yesterday.
Agreed.
They didn't really even have to try.
Agreed.
So what's the...
Well, what do you expect him to do? Do you want to do an Amarim?
So why do we...
And say this is the worst City side for the last 8 years since I've been here. Is that what you want him to say?
Of course he doesn't have to say that.
Well, you can't expect him to be saying anything other than any sort of positive thing he can.
So what we're saying is that he's saying it, but he can't mean it, surely?
I would hope not.
No.
But it's not, because it's not true.
Well, that's it. So why come out and lie?
Well, because that's what you do. You can't come out and tell the truth all the time.
When Arteta comes out and has his post-match conferences and says nonsense, you call him out for it. So why does he get a pass and
No, we call people out when they continually come out with the same claptrap, this other rubbish. This is completely different. He's coming out and he's talking about the young players and he's saying there's a bright future. He thinks he sees something in the young guys that can basically get them back to where they want to be.
So is he right?
I don't believe the signs are there that he's correct right now. I don't believe that the young players he's talking about have shown that they are capable in 12 months, 18 months of winning the Premier League. I don't believe that. But it's kind of an open-ended. It's a bright future because there's a lot of young players.
Stevie.
You can't expect them to come out and say
You're a side that's won 4 titles in a row, that was favourite for the Champions League at the start. If you've got Carlo Ancelotti coming out and saying that about Real Madrid, the future's bright. I've seen a lot of hope after getting knocked out of the Champions League.
But
he's got half a team missing and he's playing a lot of young guys that don't have experience.
He's got Rodri missing, that's it.
He's got a lot of young guys playing new signings.
Go on, Mario.
Dan, listen. What he's saying, you understand? Look, okay, the things that Pep is saying is also what we are seeing, right? He knows that he has to tweak his team. We cannot lie about that. He knows that. That is obvious, you understand? I mean, you understand? We saw De Bruyne, you understand? We know that there are players in that team that we all idolized. You understand? We really loved the way they were playing and everything. Now things are changing. You need to adapt and he need to reshuffle his cards again in his team. It's not going to be that quick that he's going to do it, because then it falls down like a pack of cards. And the situation the club is in, right? So first, you understand, we all know about the legal terms that they're going through. Then we know about, you understand, some players, in, out, then adjusting new players in the team. And then, you have a great manager. He took a little bit of a period and then he extended his contract. So all those things weigh really heavy on the team. And regardless what you just said, like they've been winning the league so many times. Yes, of course, they're champions, but it hurts champions, when they are not. So now he's being shaked up. And Liverpool also, this is the season for them. Why? Because all the other teams are kind of helping them too. City, not playing well. Arsenal, not playing well. Chelsea, not even a shout that they can come close to. What do you want to call? Okay, Nottingham Forest, we were talking about, but that is not, the team of that size. So in a way, I understand what Nedum says. He can attack his team that he likes. Like what do you want him to say? All the points that we already highlighted, don't take the man down like that. It doesn't work like that. No, Nedum, I got you, my brother. It does not work like that.
Oh, my goodness. So it doesn't matter what he says. We just give him a pass. But this is a team. Yeah. Have you seen, to Stevie's point, have you seen potential amongst these youngsters, Nedum? You think, oh, yeah, they can go toe-to-toe with the boys once again, once they've got some experience?
Well, to be honest, from my perspective, he's talking about some players who are 20, 21, 22 years of age, and I don't think they'll have the impact that, say, City players have had in recent years, where they've gone and won 4 Premier League titles in a row. But it's not to say that, say, further down the road that they can't. I think the experience that they're going through this year, the experience of possibly Guardiola's last season next year, I think it will help them, like the likes of Savinho and others. They're settling in. Guardiola, he's doing what he's doing. And I think you've got Haaland's coming there as well. He's 24 years of age. So, yes, the future might not be as clear and obvious as said the last few years with the likes of Bernardo Silva's, Kevin De Bruyne's and all these others who've been so significant. But with those guys being older, well, what's next? You don't want everything to come to a complete halt. And yes, the transition might be tricky, but why should it be easy? It's the Premier League. It's one of the toughest leagues in world football. And for City, they have aspirations to be back there. And they're thinking brick by brick, they'll be building that foundation again.
Kevin De Bruyne will leave in the summer, Nedum. That seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? Why has he fallen off the cliff so much, like the rest of the team have this season?
It's a great question, you know. It's a really, really good question. I was fortunate enough to speak to him. I think it was before the Champions League final a couple of years ago. And he was talking about how he was playing with an injury. And he was pushing. And then he broke down the next season, didn't play for the first 3-4 months. And he said this was the first time he's missed football in probably 10, 12 years. And he's played 60, 70, 80 games a season. So I think some of those sort of injuries have caught to him and he's never been able to find full fitness. And then that dip in form, alongside a dip in form for the rest of the team, has made it quite difficult for him. And it's a shame to see him at this sort of standard. But I still think he has the ability to have an impact. You know, this is somebody who's still one of the captains for the club as well. But unfortunately, this is the reality of football. I would never write him off. I think he can still do something between now and the end of the season. But the very best of Kevin De Bruyne that we've seen, I think that tended to come when he was in a flow, where he wasn't in pain, where maybe he's playing games and so on. But you can see that it's not quite the same. It's sad to see, but again, what a fantastic player.
It was interesting yesterday, Mario, the boys were talking about something that we've talked about Chelsea a lot. And what Liverpool have in someone like Van Dijk is you have a leader, yeah? You have someone on the pitch that can galvanise the team, get them together when things aren't going well. You take a look at Manchester City in the past, obviously they had Vincent Kompany was a key part of that. You take a look at other big players who would stand up when necessarily. You take a look at this City team now and you think, where is that and where is it going to come from? Because you talk about the excitement of bright stars in the future, but looking at those teams, looking at the players with experience, you know, someone like Phil Foden, does he have that within him to become a leader of this side that we've seen is so important for these successful teams? Mario?
Very important for him to take that next step, right? And it's going to be important for him. What is he going to do next? You understand? You have to deliver more. They're going to ask more. This team clearly, you understand what you know, Nedum already said. You know, De Bruyne, a great talent, but you know, when you get older and you get injured, it's a terrible time. Injury doesn't get us quickly to the momentum that we want to be. That is what is his biggest problem. You understand? In, out, it doesn't help anybody. Silva, Gundogan, the team is still leaning on their shoulders too much. If you have one of them, let's say you use one of them or two of them, you have to have a third freshman in that team. And I think you cannot change quickly, because quickly you can see what happens, right? You understand, like the game was when Silva, you understand, started to Kusanov, when he was helping him. And Silva came to help him, because he has more experience. Things like that is fine. But the team needs to now start building. You're talking about the young talents. Okay, Nedum knows them better than I would know. But one of the key things for the young talents is going to be, can they fit straight in and make a difference? Foden did that because he calmly was brought by Pep. And he was like, I compliment Foden on the patience, what he had to wait that long, and eventually it paid off for him. But now he needs to take that, you know, like, what is it? Because not every captain has an armband, but every team needs at least 5 or 6 captains on the team to win something. Now he needs to carry them like that. Be the captain, be the focal point, tell them what to do, because he has won so much, and I think he's at that point now that he has to demand the respect and also show the responsibility to take himself and then his team to the next level in the sense of responsibility.
Are you talking about Foden here? No. Listen, you look at all the great captains over decades, hundreds of years. All the greatest captains play in the middle of the park, either at centre-back or centre midfield.
But Chelsea have just been awful in the second part of the campaign. Just 2 wins, of course, in their last 10 matches. Again, same old story. Winning a game and then just absolutely nothing. Lay out the red carpet. Aston Villa come back and win by 2-1. A lot of talk about Cole Palmer. Of course, his form has dipped along with the rest of the club. This is what Maresca had to say about the England international.
I'm always concerned about general performance. I'm not concerned about Cole, because Cole is a human being, and during the season he can have some moment where he struggles a little bit more. The problem is with Cole is probably that we rely on Cole for everything, and I said since we start that we need to rely on the team. For sure we need big players, top players like Cole, but we are not worried about Cole at all.
Yeah, I don't think Cole Palmer's the big problem, isn't it? It's the coach, Mario, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, the motivation in the team. You understand? It dipped, I think there were crucial moments when they had to win games, and it didn't change. And Cole Palmer, we talk about Cole Palmer, because he affected the game for so long. And now you saw in the last game, you understand, you saw also him, you understand, losing the cool that he normally has. You understand, he has that celebration. Is the reason, because he was the cold cat. He was the cold figure in the team that understood how to open things up. Now, when you watch the game, things didn't happen. You know, there was a moment when he tried to put Nkunku in the game. He kind of was not on the wavelength with him when he tried to pass the ball to him. There was a moment when he didn't get the ball, when he felt like he should have gotten it to be dangerous. So moments like that. People talk, we talk about Jackson, right? But Jackson was the one that was up front, leading up front, and he runs into channels with his speed and everything to open up space for him. They had played so long together, he understood him. It's not like I'm saying, like, you know, I always said I want more competition up front. But now, not having him in the team makes a hell of a difference for them. And also for Cole Palmer, what is their star man. And that's why it became difficult for them. You know, playing almost like without a striker, like a false nine or whatever he was trying. I have a feeling, you understand, now we're watching a Chelsea side that needs to, okay, last week prior to this, we already talked about, can you influence the motivation and keeping them sharp and making them hungry? And I think the hunger is kind of dipping. And it's funny to say, but it's just happening, it's the honesty.
Fun, it's good football, it's attacking football, scoring so many goals. But the finish line is near now. And at this point in the season, you get to see who the real good teams are, because they find ways to win, they find ways to reach their objectives. And I think some of Chelsea's performances in recent weeks, they've been fine. But without the results, then what are we doing? And I think Cole Palmer feels that. He's been a part of like successful sides in the past at Man City, for example. So I think he understands that things aren't where they need to be. Maresca understands they aren't where they need to be. But to give credit to Maresca, he did say way back when they were 2 points off top or whatever it was.
But why do we have to give him? Why do we have to give him credit for that? I don't understand.
He said it.
So he said it. He knew that people would stop listening.
Because
he knew that his players were going to win 2 in 10, that they were going to lose from winning positions.
No, it's not about that. It's not about that.
You can't give him credit for that. I can understand him trying to.
Dan, there was a point. Dan, I'll promise you, there was a game they played against Fulham at home, and that's a big derby for them, but they'd never lost to Fulham in probably 20, 30 years or whatever it was. And the way they lost that game to me at home highlighted the fact that they were a young team who weren't ready to be able to handle games in itself, because they got stretched in the last minute of a game, whether it was 2-2 and they were under a bit of pressure. They just almost allowed it to happen. And some of that decision-making is followed them throughout the season from that point. So it's about those little moments. The real good teams handle the big moments in attack. They handle the big moments in defence. I think Maresca could sense that his team weren't at that point, at that moment in time. And lo and behold, it's ended up being correct. And he's got a good side. He will probably be in the Champions League next year. But in terms of them being in a title race, the difference between them and, say, the way Liverpool just approached that game at the Etihad yesterday, you know, it's two completely different sides playing different football.
This is a tough one to answer. You know, from that great spell Chelsea had that got them way in the top four, looking comfortable, as you said, they have just been bang average. And we've been sitting here week after week trying to figure out what it was. We were talking about, is it Maresca? Has he taken his foot off the pedal? Is he not keeping them on their toes in training? Is that part of the problem? Or is it they are a young team and sometimes you struggle for that consistency? When you hit the heights, it's fantastic, but you don't actually understand when you're a young player why you're not hitting the heights every time you step on the field. Or is it Cole Palmer? Is it just because they rely so much on Cole Palmer? And quite frankly, it seems like it's Cole Palmer. They just rely too much on Cole Palmer. To the point where if Cole Palmer plays well, they get points, and if Cole Palmer doesn't, then they don't get results. Right. That really is what it seems like, because you can't go around that field and look at anybody else in that team who you can say, he's been good every week, he's been good every week. You know, when I think he's doing this and he's doing that. It's either Cole Palmer or it's nothing. And that I think is the biggest problem.
But how does Maresca solve that problem?
Well, he has to get in players who are going to take some of the burden off.
Oh, you have to bring in more players for Chelsea now.
Because the ones they've got aren't good enough. The ones they've got aren't good enough.
Well, what about coaching? Can you not do that?
But regardless if he brings in no players.
Just one little point here. One little point
responsibility.
You've got to remember something, right? If you've got a player, You can coach him from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, and if he doesn't get it, you can go every single day for the next year, 10 years, and he won't get it. That's the difference between Slot. Slot has picked up a group of players who actually understand the game. And so when he's doing these little changes from what Klopp was doing, they get it. You can see they've got it because they're intelligent footballers. Chelsea have got a bunch of young guys, yes, that are talented but don't understand the game. And if they don't bring in some more experienced guys who can actually help the younger ones, then you're just going to see the same thing. It's going to be a bunch of young guys doing the best but don't quite get it unless Cole Palmer turns up and scores a hat-trick.
This is Chelsea's policy, isn't it? Bring in the youngsters, give them big contracts.
Well, and for the last 3 years it hasn't worked, and it's still not working. They had a little spell where they got into the top 4.
Yeah, and then the rest went, stop looking at us.
And then it fell apart.
Mario?
No, because I totally understand what Stevie said, you know, but the thing is, they spent so much money. They had a plan, you understand, prior to Maresca came in. Then you bring him in, you understand, you have so many players in you. And then, you understand, as a coach, he wants to play the beautiful game. That's what Chelsea's built on. You understand that risk-taking, how they want to play football. Okay, yeah, not always like the way Arsenal played it, but that is the nature that is being built in that club. Okay, but now I watched the game against Villa. You cannot play against a side like Villa and being exposed like that in the first half. If it wasn't down to Watkins, it would have been easy down, you understand. Okay, you go 1-0 up, but if Watkins, handled the ball quicker and even, you understand, took his opportunities and assist people quicker, they would have been 2-0 or 2-1 up. But the thing is now, what I feel with Chelsea now, you cannot be exposed like that. You understand? You cannot be stretched, you cannot be counter-attacked like that, and you cannot be a team, you understand, that is similar, you understand, when I watch City sometimes, is being vulnerable with the 40 yards behind the defensive line. You cannot. It's impossible. When you want to play that beautiful game, you have to have the players that can handle that. Regardless if you look, the guys at the back, they have the speed to handle it. But now it's not only down to the speed, it's also about the intelligence to see when you have 40 yards behind you, because you have players who are less as quick, but you always have to remember, run earlier so you don't get in trouble. What happened against Villa? The amount of time that Villa got behind them, you understand, even if it was corner runs, it's too much. This is how you cannot win games. And that's why when I watched Chelsea, yes, I was one of the ones that was saying like, hey, if you're second in the league, of course you're in the title race. You understand? Regardless if you're not, you understand, now you were playing well, you were winning games, but now you're dropping out. And I said at the beginning of the season, you need to make it to Champions League. If Chelsea doesn't make it to Champions League, it's failing because you spend so much money. That's where you want to be. You cannot afford just to be a team and be in the league. No. Champions League is the most important part, and they have to do whatever it takes to do it. And the way it looks now, it's not looking good.
It has been one of the worst Premier Leagues when it comes to the quality of football that we've seen from a lot of the teams. But fear not, their reward is top 5. Look like they, of course, will be doing Champions League. Will be doing what's good? What English? Will be playing in the Champions League next season. Looking at those contenders, we've given a pass to Arsenal and to Liverpool as well. There's quite a few teams in the running. You could take it down even below Brighton. But from this lot, who is making the top 5, Stevie?
Cool. Well, I don't think. I think from Aston Villa up. I'm still not sure of Bournemouth.
Right.
I think if you take Bournemouth out, it's between the others who gets in the top 5.
Right.
So that means there's probably going to be one of them that misses out, because I think Forest are going to do enough to be in the top 5.
So Forest are okay.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 more spots.
Yep.
Who are?
Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Villa.
Not Manchester City.
Oh, sorry. I forgot about Man City.
Stevie Nicol. Whoa.
No, wait, Nedum, it's all right.
You got to put the list back on there.
So here's the thing, Nedum. Here's the thing, Nedum. Excuse me. Let's be honest. Man City, Newcastle and Villa. Explain to me which one's ahead of the other.
Yeah.
Because If you want to look at the history books, then you'd say City. But right now, they can't score a goal to save their life because it's over there. They can't score a goal to save their life, and they can't stop anybody from getting at them. So how is it?
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm going to go Aston Villa.
Yes.
And Newcastle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. There's nothing.
I suppose the argument against Villa is Champions League.
Okay, I understand that. But again, I go back to City.
No, that's fine. Okay. No, I was just saying, if you're going to make an argument
There's
against...
nothing about Man City right now that makes me think they're going to actually beat teams.
Okay. All right.
Whereas Newcastle and Villa,
yes,
I think I've got stuff that can win games.
All right. Nedum?
Yeah, so what I would say in relation to that is City have obviously been really poor over the last 2-3 months, but they're somehow still in the top 4. So what does that say about the other teams who are around them at this moment in time? I think we're very right to sort of criticise City for the way that they've performed. But even like in this weekend just gone and say the weekend before, like Bournemouth losing at home, Villa themselves, why are Villa outside of the top 4 or 5? It's because they've been ridiculously inconsistent at times this season as well. So I think in terms of the way that all those teams are going to be sort of approaching the back end of the season, if I was to back a team to be able to like finish ahead of the others, it'd be very tough to say that, say 3 of those teams will finish ahead of Man City. Even Forest themselves, for as good as they've been, like there's another 4 goals conceded this weekend just gone, and it was a big game for them against Newcastle. Like, can they keep their eyes on the prize, or is the feeling of being that close to the Champions League going to affect them? And interestingly, I think from City's perspective, they play Bournemouth, they play Aston Villa, I think they play a couple of Brighton, play a couple of teams that are in and around them. And this is their objective now. The FA Cup is obviously something they'll try and go for, but in reality, it's the domestic form. And for them to have a goal like that to try and do it, I'd be very surprised if they didn't make it in. And again, for some of the other teams who are in there at this moment in time, if they were that good, they'd be a lot further ahead of Man City, as we see with Liverpool, as we see with Arsenal. But for the rest, it's all the same, much of a muchness.
So Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and who are your other 2, Nedum?
I think for the story, it'd probably be good for Forest, but I don't think they'll get on. So I'm going to have to say Newcastle, and I think probably Aston Villa.
Right. Mario, quickly.
Hey, quickly, I think Villa invested so much, so I definitely have to give them the shout because they want to be up there for sure. But Chelsea, they dropping out, man. I feel so bad by saying that. But anyway, okay, I feel like the way it is right now, you understand, well, we already said City, what is it, Nottingham Forest. I might substitute, I don't think Nottingham might drop some points, so then I change them for Villa.
There you go.
It just makes no sense to...
But the red card, or the silly red card aside, it hasn't been bad, has it, for Anthony since the move? And I suppose Marcus Rashford moved as well, of course, to assist in that win against Chelsea. Wan-Bissaka was involved in the Arsenal game as well. He was let go in the summer. Nedum, is this just a case of being able to enjoy your football a little bit?
Yeah, probably. I think the way that you sort of get scrutinised when you're away from Manchester United is obviously very different to being at those other clubs. And yes, those guys are at like big clubs respectively, but it's not the same as, say, the criticism that is sort of levelled at a United player or a United team that isn't as successful as, say, we've seen in the past, who will rightly be criticised because they should be there for a reason. But as Steve was saying, like they look like they're enjoying their football. Wan-Bissaka is bombing up the wing for West Ham. You've seen Rashford flying at people for Villa and now upgrading to like being in the Champions League. And Anthony himself, like I subscribe to La Liga on YouTube, they're constantly pushing Anthony. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is good. And you can see it, he's composed, he's looking for those final balls, he's trusted. The manager wants to see him out on the field, and obviously he's probably going to take a three game sort of hiatus now. But he wants to have an impact, and he seems like he's enjoying his football. And that's the thing for lots of players. If you're enjoying your football, you can get the best version of it. And I think that shirt at United, that red shirt playing in front of those fans at Old Trafford, it weighs heavy on a lot of people. And for those 3 people in the last couple of years, it must have been incredibly heavy because we never saw the best of them. But it's good to see them out there because these are good players. They might not be to the level that's needed to beat United to be successful, but they're still good players, and it's good to see them having an impact.
100% the environment you're in. And the environment at United, on and off the field, is absolutely toxic. There's millions of, not millions, there's lots of players who have had talent who've never quite made it to the highest levels, and that's because the mentality wasn't there. And so if you're happy on and off the field, that translates.
Right.
It translates to what you do, particularly on the field, and you play with an open mind and everything's clear. But when you're in an environment where there's a cloud hanging over it constantly, it drags everybody down mentally. And so that affects everything you do. It affects your running, it makes everything feel harder, and it makes you think the other opposition are bigger and strong. I mean, everything, you get dragged down by a toxic environment.
Right.
And so when you get outside of that, oh my, it's incredible.
It's really interesting because I think it's something you can really talk about as a former professional, Mario, because on the outside looking in, you're like, oh, come on. You know, if you can do it here, why can't you do it there?
Yeah, because, you know, like I think, you know, Nedum and Stevie tapped into it. That shirt is a whole different ball game. And people have to understand it. I saw it like prior, like, what is it, 1 day or 2 days ago? De Ligt came out and he said that. He said, I played at top teams. And we're talking top teams, eh? Bayern München in Germany. Then Juventus in Italy. You know what he said about Man United? The pressure there is different. He said, that is way higher than I have experienced. And of course, in Holland at Ajax, but you cannot compare it because the size. But Man United, he said, was different. And I totally agree. Playing there and being part of, like, we all been professionals, and we understand that the weight that comes on your shoulders, you have to be ready for that. And some people, why they don't make it, Stevie gave the right answer. Sometimes you're not ready to handle that pressure, because you can play a great game, right? And then next week, you 10,000 the week after, you understand, you're building up your career, you have maybe 80,000 around you. Every week, 80,000 screaming at you if you're making a mistake. Can you handle that? And that comes one game, the second game, and you have to make the season make well. I always said it, Stevie, and I was talking to Stevie prior to this show. We had a conversation regarding, and we said it. Sometimes if you underestimate the power where you're going, and that's what we talked about, it was about Antonio, he underestimated his start at Man United, and that's why it didn't kick off well for him. When I look at Rashford, he has the talent. We don't have to talk about that. We knew that. We have seen that. So for him, it comes down to in his head. How do you think and what do you want? If he get that answer right, oh my God, he's got speed, power, skill, and he's got self-belief. There's not a lot of players going to tell me they're going to play against him and say, oh, it's going to be an easy game.
Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you very much for all your questions. Nedum is with us, Mario as well. Steve, you feel all right? I feel like you've gone downhill as the show's gone on. Not with your content, with your health.
No, I've just got a blocked nose.
Yeah, that's true. Stevie.
Well, it's getting late, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting late. Your age, the cold. It starts to 8. Is Stevie going to the parade when Liverpool win the league?
No.
Did you like the parades back in the day?
Do you know, it's really strange. When I think about the parades now, I enjoy it way more now than I ever did then.
What was the problem with them?
Well, the problem was that we had a lot of beer on the bus.
Right, well, that sounds like the least of your problems.
And so really we were just concerned with getting more beer. You know, you're waving to everybody and it's lovely to see everybody.
Right.
But it's not until afterwards and you kind of go, hold on a second.
Yeah.
What about that? It's
it must have been incredible, because just sea of red, thousands of fans.
Aye. Well, you're always looking to see who's sitting in the crazy spot.
Right.
Because people can. I've never seen old men being able to climb a lamppost and sit on the top of it.
Yes.
The way they did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just mental. But anywhere somebody could get a view, they climbed it and sat on it.
Mario, Chelsea FA Cup, there must have been a parade, yeah?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, the capital of the country going on a parade, I didn't mind that, especially on the beautiful street like King's Road. That's how they got me to sign for Chelsea, because they took me from the airport straight on the King's Road, showed me the King's Road, and then took me to the stadium and then offered the deal. So then I knew, okay, they showed me London, they said, like, okay, now you can sign.
I tell you the Steve Staunton one, don't I?
Is this when he had a little too much?
Yeah.
Right.
So we would get on the bus at the airport and go into town.
Yeah.
And of course we had to come back to the airport. So when we would get outside of Liverpool, it was the coast road down to the airport.
Yeah.
And so Steve Staunton, he won't mind me telling you, Steve Staunton had way more than he was supposed to.
Right.
And was basically sitting, he could hardly keep his eyes open. And he was on the side of the bus that was at the shore. And so we just got together and started shouting and going, Steve, wave to the fans, wave to the fans. He stands like that to the ocean. Stan's just sitting in his seat like that, waving to the ocean.
Lovely.
Absolutely paralytic.
Nedum, any parade stories?
No, Dan. You know me, mate. Didn't play many cup finals, didn't win many leagues, but I enjoyed watching them. Yeah, cheers, Dan.
No, I said that in a much nicer way than I could have put it. Is it fair in a team sport to justify bad results because of the absence of one player? For example, no Rodri for City, no striker for Arsenal, yet Liverpool have no striker, but look a more complete team. Is Rodri's absence allowed to be used as a complete scapegoat for this whole debacle that has been City this season, Nedum?
I think it's one of the bigger reasons, but then there have been other players who've been out of form, like, for Kyle Walker, for example, the first half of the season, that's as bad as he's played in a long time.
Kyle Walker's getting it today.
He's been unavailable due to injury. Phil Foden not scoring a goal in the league until, he's getting hammered. Yeah, Phil Foden not scoring a goal till, probably 3-4 months into the season. But to put it into perspective, imagine if this season in particular, Mo Salah was unavailable for 3-4 months. Would we see Liverpool in the same position? I would argue that Rodri is as important to City as Salah is for Liverpool, even though it's a different position. So I think it does make a difference, but it's not the only reason, and people need to step up around it. But for City, they haven't been able to do so this year, whereas for others, they're doing just fine.
What a question this is. Stevie, would you rather have Klopp or Slot at Liverpool next season?
Wow.
Oof.
I'm going to say Slot, right? And the reason I'm going to say Slot is, Klopp only won one Premier League. Now, it's probably the most important league title in 30 years.
I believe so, Stephen.
It's huge. The title Klopp won is absolutely huge, so don't underestimate how important that was. However, I feel like the way that Arne Slot has Liverpool playing, they have more chance of, in the future, winning more Premier League titles. Because it's great to watch as Klopp's teams were. It was 100 miles an hour. And when you're playing 100 miles an hour, game after game, week after week, A, it's difficult to keep that up, and B, I would say physically, it's hard to keep that up as well. You're probably going to end up with more injuries. And
yeah.
So, whereas Slot's calm way of executing the way Liverpool plays, or the way he's got them playing, has more sustainability about it than Klopp's teams. So I'm going to say Slot.
Love for the Dutch there, Mario.
Of course, I got to support the Dutch guy, you understand? And also the way he's doing it. I'm very happy that he's doing so well, because look how many Dutch people have been going across. And you understand, prior to this show, we talked about ego. Yes, the ego kicked in because they play a certain type of football in Holland, and then they come to England and they think they're going to do the same. And I'm so happy Slot didn't do that. Even, when the way he talks, the way he thinks, it was totally different because he adapted himself to the game. And I think that's why, you understand, he started off well, because he's still got a long journey to keep on going.
Nedum, given that Pep just spent 200 million and yet there's no improvement, how can City management trust Pep with future investment in the summer? Especially given he's never been in this situation. Do they look beyond Pep?
Well, for a team in crisis, the best thing to do is to either call Neil Warnock or maybe Sam Allardyce. So clearly, Guardiola needs to step out and bring those two big fellas in. Trust them with the money. Let's not be ridiculous. Yeah. This is a guy who's brought this era at Man City. Yeah, it's brought this era at Man City and it's been hugely successful. A lot of the money which they've spent in the past has led to players sort of outperforming what some of the fees would be. Obviously not the case with everybody, but some of the players that have come in, they've ended up being really significant for this Man City side. So for the youngsters that have come in and the players who've come in this January, yes, they haven't necessarily hit the ground and made City astonishing, but in the grand scheme of things, when they came in January anyway, did you really think they were going to be going into the latter rounds of the Champions League? I don't think so. Did you think they're going to mount a title charge in the Premier League? I don't think so. So for them, this is unfortunately just the back end of a disappointing season overall, but their objectives have changed. There's the FA Cup, there's qualifying for the Champions League. Let's see how those signings do between now and the end of the season, should they be able to achieve some of those goals. And in Guardiola, like, if you doubt him, do you know what I mean? Like, who's going to come in and make it better? Whoever comes in, if Guardiola gets sacked, that's going to be one of the toughest jobs in football. So stick with him while he's here, and I'm sure he's going to try and help the club in the future be in a better position after he's gone.
Mario, Virgil van Dijk was getting a lot of flack for not being vocal or showing enough leadership as the Dutch captain. He's on course to lead Liverpool to their 20th title and may go down as one of our great captains. Have you seen a maturity in his character these past couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you understand when you highlight that point. Why? Because in Holland, sometimes we want to play the game, you understand, to be open and be beautiful and everything. And at Liverpool, there are moments where Van Dijk is just doing the business. Play the game, you understand. Of course, you want to take the responsibility because he's in the young team sometimes. Take a little bit more care of the younger players when it comes to the national team of Holland. But away from that, I think they also have to remember, you just have to make sure, let him do his job, and if he's not as vocal as they expect him to be, then make sure he's in the dressing room. Because in the dressing room, guys, sometimes people on the field, they talk a lot. You have players on the training field, they talk a lot, and you sometimes want to tell them, hey, stop, don't talk that much, talk on the field that much. And sometimes you have it the other way around. I think he talks a lot in the dressing room and maybe less on the field. And I think the balance is, but being a captain of Liverpool, guys, I think in Holland they should not take that lightly, because that is a big, big job. And Stevie can tell us more about it, but come on, being a captain of Liverpool, come on now. That's a great achievement.
To Mario, how happy are you with Dutch teams doing well in Europe? And which team do you think will go the furthest? AZ, PSV, Feyenoord or Ajax?
I don't know if they're going to win it, but I'm happy that because it helps the league to get up. You understand? So AZ, we understand is maybe the surprise in the package, because the three, PSV, Feyenoord and Ajax, are always the leaders in the country. But for me, of course, my history is Ajax, but I'm also happy that Ajax is doing that well, because prior to this season, they were almost, down just above relegation. So for them now to be and making a name for themselves again, yeah, of course, I hope for them to at least, shake some more up and go all the way and do it on a global level instead of just just do it in Holland only.
Stevie, as a defender, what would you say are some of the best qualities to have to become a successful top-level defender in football?
Well, it's got to matter if somebody beats you. That's it.
On the pitch, if somebody beats you one-on-one,
has to matter.
Past you, right?
It has to hurt you.
Oh, okay.
To the point that you're not going to let it happen again.
Right.
That is absolutely. You start there, you've got a chance.
Nedum, most important qualities as a defender?
No, I would agree with that as well, because obviously the way that the styles change across the years in terms of playing out and so on, but ultimately it has to matter. It's the same way, like imagine seeing a goalkeeper that's not bothered about conceding goals. Like a defender needs to take pride in their defending, because people will be looking at them and they will be needed at some stage. And if you can do that job, then yeah, you've got every chance to be a good player.
Oh, Mario?
Sorry.
Oh.
No, I was just going to add.
Yeah, it's just what the guy said, when you matter, go on,
Sorry,
Stevie.
Mario. I was just going to the point of, because we all rewatch games we play in.
Okay.
To the point of being embarrassed when you rewatch it and you're hoping nobody sat next to you watching it and sees you messing up.
Really?
Aye, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Mario?
I wanted to say that. I wanted to say exactly what Stevie said. I want to play that good that I don't have to watch the game again, because I want to make sure that when the game goes on, I don't have to look because I've been there well. But if you don't play good then, and imagine you have a meeting with the team, and I can tell you, I was at the age of 19. We had a meeting every game. After every game, we had a meeting with the whole team, sitting, watching videos, and talking about what the team should have done and what you did as an individual. And Louis van Gaal was my coach. Oh my God. I come out of school and go into the dressing room and then talk about this the next day. Then you don't know. Listen, at that moment, it is just one time in your whole career you don't want to be a footballer. That's a conversation after the game when you played bad. Then you say to yourself, I don't want to be a footballer today, but tomorrow I'll be okay.
Oh, that's hard. Final questions for Stevie, but I'm going to ask it to you, Nedum. Stevie was a very good and flexible player in his prime. Well, some other great players only played one position their entire career. So consequently, who do you think would win, Nedum, when 11 Stevies, Stevie in his prime, would take on 11 Messis?
Oh, wow. I think I'm just going to have to back the 11 Messis because, you know, this is multiple Ballon d'Or winner. You know, one of the icons of the game. And for as good as Stevie is, I think sometimes it might take two Stevies to try and stop one Messi, but that leaves a lot of other Messis to do what they need to do. So, yeah, I'm going to leave Messi on that one. And I think most people will be okay with that. Sorry, Stevie.
What's the game plan, Stevie? What are you saying to yourself?
Set pieces.
Set pieces.
See,
I'll play for set
that's
pieces.
what I wanted to, I knew it. I knew that. I was going to say exactly that. And you're not going to make the end.
Set pieces and win the toss at least.
Win the toss?
Yeah, you got to win the toss because if he's got the ball with 10 of his mates,
right.
10 Messis,
yes.
you've never seen the ball.
Right. And then you have Steve Nicol, the set piece coach, the throwing coach.
Playing for set pieces.
All down the line. Great stuff, guys. Thank you very much. ESPN FC returns tomorrow, as we mentioned, of course. A couple of Premier League matches, plus that big game in the Copa del Rey semi-final. Barcelona taking on Atletico Madrid. Be sure to join us.